Now that you've found UBN Radio and discovered our quality talk shows, it's time to spread the word to friends, family, and the universe. 24 hours of music and talk. Radio without limits. That's why people keep coming back for more. That's UBNradio.com.
Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, love, laugh, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Fay on UBNradio.com.
And welcome. You are tuned in to Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa every Tuesday at naturally high noon. Here out of the Sunset Gower Studios out of Hollywood, California, Universal Broadcasting Network on Tuesdays, and then on Thursdays again on my CNBC News Radio AM 1050 KCAA Loma Linda. And that's at 7 p.m. for your drive home. And this is a show about hope and how you can be happy 88% of the time. So there's no gossip, no scandal, and no K words, no Kardashian talk allowed. Instead, we talk about what is right with the world, people, places, and things. And it is Earth Day tomorrow. Happy Earth Day. And tomorrow, please do one thing that is good for the earth. That includes one thing that's good for you. But in particular, if you can go down to the beach and pick something up that doesn't belong there, or celebrate Earth Day with your children, teaching them the importance about this legacy that we get to live on this planet. Also, today is day 21 of the end of the 45th round of my 21-day fast from complaining. So if you were able to not complain for 21 days in a row this last month, contact me at forbalance.org and you win a free pack of my motivational cards, my 52-card pick-me-ups, Stacking the Deck for Life Balance with Dr. Marissa. So you will join, let's see, Eva has one from Kentucky, a pack of those cards, and Daia from Long Beach are the only two who have actually made it 21 days in a row without complaining. And yes, I did ask them, they did speak. So they did not keep quiet for 21 days in a row. So it is possible. So please do let me know if you've done that. If you would like to join next round, it is round 46, starts May 1st, 2015. And you can try again. And because it has been so successful, we've grown from about 40 people July 1st, 2011 to now over 8,000 people are doing this virtually online, where I every day give you a balance tip for 21 days. And starting day 3, we actually post gratitudes. If you'd like to help now bring it to an app version, because it's so much fun, and I'm having a blast finding animators and sounds to bring this fast to a game level so you can compete with people at work or at home to see how long you can be complaint-free. I put it on CrowdRaiser. If you go to GoFundMe.com/HRAXLO and donate as little as $5, you'll be the first one to get the app that will come out this year, as well as if you do $20, you get a shout out on the air like Ann Newman did, as well as RJ Peterson. So thank you so much, and Elizabeth Schober, for the donations on GoFundMe. And now, today, I'm addressing a topic that I have thought about for a while, but never really got around to. It wasn't the right time, but it is my show number 155, and it is such an important topic because it influences hope and happiness, and that is the topic of addiction. I'm sure that every single person who is listening today knows someone, and it may be themselves, who has some kind of an addiction. So today I thought we would introduce the topic, and I couldn't think of a better organization to bring to the studio but Anaheim Lighthouse. And we have the CEO, Tim Salyer, with us. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
And you have brought with you one of your therapists. I'll let you introduce Dina.
This is Dina Duncan, and she's our lead therapist at the Anaheim Lighthouse.
Wonderful. And Anaheim Lighthouse is, let me see, I actually wrote this out. It provides the highest quality treatment services in a safe and drug-free environment to those who suffer from substance abuse. It seeks to inspire and promote self-empowerment, personal growth, positive choices, individual responsibility, and healthy relationships. So thank you for joining me and helping me illuminate this area of addiction. So I thought we would start with the definition of addiction, since I like to do stuff like that. And I went to Psychology Today. Addiction is a condition that results when a person ingests a substance, example, alcohol, cocaine, nicotine, or engages in an activity, example, gambling, sex, or shopping, that can be pleasurable, but the continued use or act of which becomes compulsive and interferes with ordinary life responsibilities. Now, Tim, we were speaking before the show. You have a shorter definition, which is, what is addiction?
Well, addiction is simply put, doing something over and over again, even though you know it is bad for you.
Yeah, that's a very, mine's, you can't stop doing it even though you know better.
Exactly.
So we'll go with the shorter one. And this is, it is a very broad topic, because I think there's so many things that you can get addicted to. And as the definition says, some things, or food addiction. I know I had Janine Roth on a couple of times to talk about that. So some of them are things that you normally are okay in moderate quantities, but it's that excess that seems to get us into trouble. Okay, stats. I didn't know it was that prevalent. How many million people are addicted today?
Well, the estimates are from different sources, but from the most widely accepted sources, about 24 million people in the United States suffer from addiction, from substance abuse addiction. And about, there's probably another maybe 10 million or so that are what we would call maybe high risk, that display behaviors that, if continued, would be considered addictive behavior.
So that's a pretty significant number, 34 million, who are counted in this world of addiction.
Yeah.
And would you say, let's see, of those addictions? So your specialty is substance abuse. What substances are we talking about?
All substances: alcohol, barbiturates, opiates, and anything that would be considered a substance that you ingest. I mean, it can be bath salts. It could be, anything that you ingest that causes a problem in your life.
Okay,
basically.
has consequences.
Yes, except for food addictions. That's a separate addiction that we don't specialize in. And that's that, which, by the way, is probably the toughest addiction to solve.
Oh, why?
Well, Dina can speak on that pretty well. Better than I can technically, but the short answer is, it is it's such a severe psychological issue that it's hard to treat, because you almost have to be with that person all the time, to prevent them from eating incorrectly, or binging, or they become bulimic, or they become anorexic, and you have to go so far as to have glass tables, and sit with them at dinner. You have to sit with them before dinner, after dinner. You have to limit their exercise. They don't want to exercise excessively, and it's just a tough one.
Well,
Dina can speak.
Well, a food addiction is different because we grow up, as families and everything, using food to celebrate, using food as reward systems. And when it comes to even binge eating disorder is now in the diagnostic manual for psychology. They just put it in there. And so that's overeating. And so food is not something we can get away from. And so it's an addiction you've got to treat it as doing it in moderation, which is the other addictions you treat with abstinence. So therefore, your substance that you're addicted to, you have to have it for survival.
Right. It's not an all or nothing where you can't count how many days in a row you've gone without food because then you're going to be dead at some point. Yeah. Okay. I get it. If you've just tuned in, you're listening to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa. And today we are talking about addiction with the Anaheim Lighthouse CEO, Tim Salyer, and therapist Dina. I almost said Dina. I almost said Dina. Okay, so I'm going to jump in on one of those moose on the table. I call it moose. So that's my Canadian version of elephant in the room. So some people will say, they're laughing at me. Some people will say that addictions are just an excuse. That if come on, if you're strong enough and you shouldn't, then just don't. Like gospel according to Nike, or the opposite. Just don't do it, right? Just don't do it. I mean, what is the big deal about is there really a disease? Is there really a compulsion so strong that you cannot just will it out?
Well, now they have proven that it is a disease. Addiction is a disease. The medical community has approved it as such. And what happened is that the pleasure receptors, are turned on in the brain and they do not get turned off. And it is such a high sense of pleasure from the substances which induce it that it just overflows the brain, and the brain is just zapped like a lightning, so to speak, and constant zapping of this pleasure where the brain just stops making it themselves. And so the addict needs to continue using the substances to even, as they call it, feel getting well, to even feel normal, for survival. The substances become a means of survival to even function on a daily basis. And so the need just becomes greater and greater to just be able to function in everyday living, much less the high gets lost after a while. They never get the first high again. But the receptors are still turned on in there, and they're chasing that feeling of euphoria over and over again, and never getting it, because they tend to need something that's more than what they're getting out of just basic living in this world, which most people are okay with. But they want, once they've experienced that high, they enjoy it so much, and they continue chasing it. And it's a never-ending cycle.
They've actually traced the brain activity, and it actually can change the brain cortex with certain substances. They route a certain way, and they want to keep routing that way.
The NIH has some films, when I was doing research for this show, that show the infrared brain picture of a normal person, and then a meth user, and then a meth user in recovery. And you can actually, the point was, you can actually recover from the impact of addiction, which is super hopeful, because I have clients who are addicts. I have clients who are family members of addicts, and it is one of the most painful things to watch. I know the moms whose kids are addicted, who just or spouses or partners where it's like they don't get it. They can't understand why someone would purposefully choose to do something that has such damaging, horrific consequences. And that's for me, the definition. It's like, it doesn't make any sense why someone would do that. Why someone would continue to do that if it meant losing their children, if it meant losing their job, it doesn't make any sense. But that's the compulsion. That's that addiction, and it's horrific. And I think that the fact that it is real, and if you are someone who says, it's an excuse, that if you could have the openness to step outside of your own experience and your own reaction, and be open to the possibility that for some it's not a choice. It's not one of those. And I know for myself, I have this little voice, right? When talk about food. And the great thing is that I'll be in Bahamas in a week, and it's been a great motivation for me to actually get to the gym every day and not put everything I want in my mouth. But that voice, so I know that I have some semblance of that addictive personality, because the voice says, you shouldn't eat that. You know you shouldn't eat that. You know you shouldn't eat that. And I can imagine that for any other substance, you shouldn't. You know all these reasons, logically you shouldn't do it. Okay? You're not going to look good in your bathing suit, that's a stupid example, but I'm just using that voice. And then the other voice says, who's the boss of you? Right? It's not that big of a deal. It's just one piece of chocolate. It's just one, whatever it is. And then I listen to that voice long enough, I'll make the choice. And the worst part is that same stupid voice that just said, you're not the boss of you, now comes back at me and says, you stupid piece of shiitake, you knew you shouldn't have taken that, and you did it anyways. And now that whole hour you spent at the gym is gone because you chose it. And so that voice of what I call the internal addict, or the internal compulsive, my committee in my head, is I think one of the behavioral components that has to be addressed when there's addiction. Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So
all counts.
Yeah. You know that voice, huh? Yeah. And I think we all have that voice to some extent. How we choose to get that voice to go away is maybe the difference.
Yeah, we work a lot on restructuring their thought processes, and work a lot on what the root causes of, or why they continue to use when there's so many negative consequences, when they're losing everything around them, their families, their jobs, their health, and why they continue to use and continue.
Do you think that any or some of it might have to do with people not feeling good about themselves?
A lot of it has to do with
Okay.
low self-worth.
Yeah.
And then once they begin using, then they have all the guilt and shame that just keeps piling up, because now they've relapsed again and they're using again. And then their family is criticizing them and thinking they're never going to make it. And there's the self-criticism is the worst.
Right.
And so they just continue trying to numb those feelings of low self-worth.
That's it's like you know that it's going to hurt you, and you do it anyways because you don't think you're worth. So the sabotager, I call that the sabotager, is in full action. What kinds, and even when you list those things, what is the comeback to that? You know you're going to lose this. You know you're going to lose that. You know you're going to lose that. What is the solution there? Like, how do you get someone to see that, or do they see it and they don't care?
Well, many times they will sit in a point of view that they don't deserve anything better, and sometimes it comes from not living up to the standards of their parents, or not feeling good enough as a child in school. not really feeling good enough for who they were meant to be. And so when you start filling up their lives with more positive things and showing what they can accomplish and showing them how they can make small milestones, and when the peers telling them how good they're doing and people giving them praise and reward systems, when they've never had that much people thinking that they're
Worthy.
they're worthy,
Right.
you know. And so when you start filling it up with that, and that they're doing a good job and everything like that, they start changing it around to that. Maybe I can do this. Maybe I am worth something.
We have we spent a lot of years working with the criminal justice population, and we were a very large provider of a community-based treatment services for the California Department of Corrections. At one time, we were probably the largest in California,
Wow.
and we've probably provided services for in excess of 10,000 clients over the years. But one of the things in that regard to what you were just talking about, we attend the graduation ceremonies twice a year. And I can remember being one in Los Angeles, and there was an African-American gentleman who was in our program, and you have to come up in front of the family, which is all the clients. It's the therapeutic community. And you have to say something to the family. And at that time, we had a joint, a kind of a joint venture arrangement with the Los Angeles County Unified School District, and they had donated 17 computer workstations, and they volunteered. They donated 2 people to come in twice a week to teach computer skills and literacy to our guys, and when you complete the program, you get a certificate of achievement. And for a lot of these guys, they've never seen something like that, right? And I remember I almost cried. This one fellow got up in front of the class, and he said, today my teacher told me that I did a great job. He said, that's the only time in my life anybody's ever told me that. And those are the types of issues that you get when you're dealing with people in severe addiction.
Yeah. I had Nick Yaris on the air. He was the 140th person exonerated by DNA evidence, and he spent 30-some years in prison. And he said that, his addiction to drugs and alcohol were a direct result of how crappy he felt about himself. He was physically and sexually abused as a child, but then he took that experience and began to make really poor choices on his own actions, and ended up in prison. And so this cycle. So I'm guessing that maybe not all addicts, but many addicts are those who have that hole in the soul of that feeling of unworthiness or unlovability. And in order to fill that hole, we then go to things that make us feel better about ourselves, right? And it come with consequences that don't make us feel good about ourselves. And then that aligns with the, that swing. I'm hot shiitake, and then I'm a piece of shiitake, and I'm a hot shiitake and a piece of shiitake. And so, the hot shiitake feels really great, and then piece of shiitake is, well, of course I'm going to choose this because it's going to beat my butt, and that's what I deserve. So, okay, so that definitely helps me understand that cycle of addiction. And that was Dr. Marissa's 8 cents worth on Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa. And you are tuned into that show. And we do have, if you just tuned in, we do have our guest from Anaheim Lighthouse to come and illuminate us on this area of addiction. Now, Tim, you also have some statistics, I think. What are the latest, would you say, the issues around different kinds. I know that addiction for prescription drugs is like at an all-time high that has not been, something traditionally an addiction towards. That's one. I think you sent me something on heroin as well. But
well, SAMHSA is a website for anybody who wants to. It's www.samhsa.com. It's a governmental. It's a government website that has to do with everything about addiction, and they do surveys and they do samples, and they try to gather data to move towards what they call a data-driven treatment. Based on what they call what do they call it now? What's the name that?
Behavioral cognitive therapy?
No. It's has to do with data. Anyway.
Oh, okay.
So I just had a senior moment. So, but the idea being that gather data and gear your treatment towards around the data, rather than just having a bunch of hodgepodge treatment theories out there.
Okay,
right.
Got it.
So
data-driven therapy.
Yeah,
there you go.
And so there's about the heroin deaths, death by heroin has gone up considerably in the last couple of years. It's gone in this country. It's gone from about 5,000 people to about 8,000 people.
Wow.
And a lot of them are young. And you'll see, what you'll see over time is there are cycles. Popular drugs cycle through. And a lot of it has to do with availability, effects, and a lot of it has to do with cost. What's available, what can I get? Because an addict that's truly in his addiction or her addiction really will do anything. I mean, they'll do anything to take their mind off or away from reality.
Right.
Because they're uncomfortable with it.
Right.
So,
right.
And there's about 15,000 treatment facilities now in the United States, roughly. These are 2013 figures because we're always doing things in arrears in the treatment field because the data keeps coming in.
Right.
It's up a little bit, but I would think between 2013 and 2015 there are more. Probably.
Sure.
Overall.
Sure.
Some drop out, but more people are getting into it.
I actually have here, I think from that site, the estimates of total overall costs, the cost of substance abuse in the U.S., including productivity and health and crime-related costs, exceed $600 billion.
That sounds about
annually.
Right.
This includes about $193 billion for illicit drugs, $193 billion for tobacco, and $235 billion for alcohol. As staggering as these numbers are, they do not fully describe the breadth of destructive public health and safety implications of drug abuse and addiction, such as family disintegration, loss of employment, failure in school, domestic violence, and child abuse. And that's from the NIH.
Yeah, and there's the billions included in that number are billions of dollars, probably well over 100, related to private property that has been stolen just to support the habit. And then those people get into the system. It costs about $14,000 per person to take a person through the criminal justice system from arrest to conviction. Wow. So each one about $14,000.
That's right. You were a lawyer in a past life.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
I did a lot of criminal defense law. Wow.
Great. And we're close enough to break that I think we should take it to thank our sponsors for today's show, and that is Anaheim Lighthouse. And we will be right back for more on addiction and the solution to addiction when we come back. We'll be back in 2. Peace in and peace out.
Are you tired of dealing with your loved one's addiction to drugs and/or alcohol? Are you ready for a solid recovery program that is licensed by the state of California and CARF accredited, that is delivered by an experienced, professional, and caring staff that have a personal experience in recovery? Then call Anaheim Lighthouse at 877-959-5909. That's 1-877-959-5909 today to shine your life light again.
welcome. And I just realized I forgot to thank our staff interpreter, Sharon Pierre Lewis, who is an integral part of my show because we are a growing population of deaf listeners to radio, thanks to Sharon's work on the air. So please, I had too many things to remember at the start of the show, and I forgot one of the most important. I love you, Sharon. So we are back with the Anaheim Lighthouse, and we've been talking about addiction and the cost of addiction and sort of the thought pattern behind the compulsive addiction. I want to go through for my listeners who have loved ones or themselves realize that what they are doing isn't working anymore, and they're ready to get some help. So Dina, when people come, usually, or Tim also, when they call, what's kind of the range? Who should call for help?
Well, in the perfect world, if you can get the addict or the alcoholic to call themselves, that would be wonderful, and ask for their help. But many times that doesn't happen. So we get inquiries from family members, wives that are just at their wits' end and don't know where to go or what to do.
Or husbands.
Or husbands. Either way, yeah.
Or partners.
Partners, whatever it may be. And so we kind of give them some guidance and everything and work with them and try to see if they can convince their loved one to, make the move. And once the clients come into treatment, I always tell them that this is one of the most courageous moves they've ever made in their life, one of the greatest gifts they can give themselves, one of the greatest gifts they can give their family. And the words of encouragement that they're headed in the right direction.
So is it possible to have someone who doesn't want to, but their family members want them to? Can they change their mind? Have you seen that happen? Because there is that belief system that until an addict is ready for themselves to admit that they are done, then there's really no use in trying to pull an intervention, let's say.
Many clients are resistant at first, quite a number of them, especially the younger generation, you would say, because they don't have, per se, as much to lose as, say, a married man with children, house, and job and everything. But
well, they also think they're bulletproof. When you're young, you think you're bulletproof.
True that.
Just real quick on those numbers.
Yeah.
About 70% of our calls are not from the addict themselves.
70%.
About 70% are from someone else, like, as Dina had mentioned.
And it's worth making that call, right? It is
absolutely.
So even if they don't think someone's ready, it is worth getting information.
It may take a while.
No one gets treatment until they're ready to get it, but it's a process. And the person that comes in to treatment the first day, sometimes they don't want to be there and they're kicking and screaming.
Right.
But sometimes they sit there and they hear things, and they hear one thing, and they go, well, that sounds like something I can relate to. And sometimes they'll sit there long enough that they'll get it. And in spite of themselves.
Right.
But the general, I think Dina will agree, you get it when you get it, and it may take you 10 times.
Okay.
Very few people get it the first time. There are those that do,
right,
but very few do.
Right. Yeah, I read that on the NIH. The question was, I'll ask that to you. If someone doesn't get it the first time, does that mean the treatment did not work?
No, not necessarily. It means that they weren't ready to receive it. Okay. The teacher will come when the student is ready, is what they say.
Right.
And you have, it's just an amazing process. It really is an amazing process, and I don't think anybody can really explain exactly how it works.
Okay.
But you sit in enough meetings and you see people who are this person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've had people that have been in prison for 20 years for really bad stuff. And you look at them once they get treatment and they get it,
Mm-hmm.
they're our best employees.
Mm.
Most of our employees in San Diego, at our lighthouse in San Diego, are graduates of our program.
Okay.
And they're just the nicest, kindest people you could even imagine.
Right.
Yet 20 years ago, they went to prison for shooting somebody or rape or mayhem or some horrendous thing, and they're a totally different person.
Right, right. And you say this process, so this is a one-way process that works for everyone to get them through. Describe the process a little without giving away.
Well, Dina can explain the technical thing, but let me just preface it by saying there's a lot of treatment programs that vary, and all of them can work. There's not just one way. We happen to support the 12-step program heavily.
Right.
But there are other. I mean, there's evidence that there's good evidence that other programs that do work.
Yeah, I'm always of the whatever works
Right.
is what works.
Right.
It's
The benefit of the 12-step program is that those resources are worldwide. And so those are resources that once they get out of treatment, they can continue using to strengthen their foundation and their sobriety. And they're on cruise ships. They're everywhere they go. There is meetings. So it's a very, very good resource.
Yes.
And for those that balk at it and don't want to do that, you know, the more it's like peer influence. There was peer influence that influenced them to do their drugs and alcohol. So when you kind of utilize that piece of it and get it to them to influence doing their recovery and everything, it works really well. And they make positive friendships and different friendships, because that's one of the biggest problems with the relapse is they go right back to the old friends, the old neighborhoods, and they just pick up right where they left on. And when they come back in after a relapse, we don't give the guilt and shame or everything. We welcome them back with open arms and try to dig deeper and find out, well, what are you missing? What'd you miss the first time around? What'd you miss the third time around?
Right.
And how can we make this stronger for you to try again? And so, because they're already beating themselves up enough for coming back in and a failure is sort of what, but it's the nature of the disease, and they can relapse for any amount of reasons or no reason at all, just because it was there.
Yeah. What would you go ahead?
I was going to say, there's an old saying you hear in recovery: we don't shoot our wounded; it's not worth the bullet. And it's you don't need to. They're already beat up. They know why they're there, you know. And it's almost like, you know, Dean and I were talking on the way up, and they you know, I tell people, what business you in? I say, I'm in the parenting business. I mean, because most people that come to us, you know, a good portion of them have been abused as kids. Not all of them,
Right.
but especially in the criminal justice system. And they've been sexually abused, physically abused, abandoned, or just ignored. You know, and so they have not learned how to live life.
Right.
And you hear it all the time in AA meetings. I came here as a 34-year-old, and I grew up here in these rooms. You know, and that's what you're teaching them, is to live life on life's terms with all the stressors that life throws at you, and make good choices, not to react in bad ways.
The inside out job that recovery, I believe, is one of the fundamental tickets to full recovery. Is one that it is a personal thing, though. That's where the families get really. I have a client who's just sick because the choices that her son is making, and she's tried everything, and if he loved me, he wouldn't be doing this, or what have I done wrong to have resulted in this kind of a son who's just killing himself? And my work with her is to cut herself some slack,
Right.
is to have her recognize that this is a disease, that it is his choice now to either take this on or not, and then to find some joy in spite of. So that, for a family system, I think if you're listening and you have a loved one in that, I know that Al-Anon is a good, I've heard is a good support group for those who are watching their loved ones go through the throes of addiction. So yeah, I've heard and seen incredible psychic changes because of that program. So and I understand it's pretty much free too, which is kind of unusual for anything in this world. So certainly something to check into. So you have how many treatment facilities?
We have two now.
Okay.
We have a 100-bed facility in San Diego. We've been down there since 2000. We have a 100-bed facility in Anaheim, which is all private pay and insurance pay for private citizens. The one in San Diego is for the criminal justice system. We're actually a joint venture partner with San Diego County Probation, and we're the reception center for everybody released from prison who is going back to San Diego County as a probationer. So last year we picked up about 2,100 people from prison and brought them to our facility. We do a risk and needs assessment, and we triage them to community resources. And if they need a place to stay, they can stay at that facility until we can get them hooked up with appropriate housing.
That's great, because I heard, I had Emerging Leadership Academy also on the show, that California has the highest recidivism rate of all the states in the United States. That's pretty amazing. I know I'm hitting a button because I know you've been doing work in this for a long time. So what would you say, just curious, the percent of the prison population that is addicted?
Probably 85%.
85%.
Probably 85% are there because of behind their addiction. They committed a crime. In their jacket, they will have a drug and alcohol issue. And
how often is that crime drug and alcohol related? Because they robbed or because they had to do it because of their compulsion.
The majority of the time, it's that way.
Yeah. So this is for the listeners, putting another moose on the table, who think it's very simple that when someone commits a crime, you throw them in jail, and if you do the crime, you do the time. It's not that simple, because we've got a cycle here going, right? You feel like crap. You end up making choices that have severe consequences. You're an addict. It's compulsive. You can't help yourself. You make poor choices. You go to jail. If you continue to be addicted in jail, and I heard this disturbing thing that, whether you're in or out of jail, you can just carry on a habit as well. So for people there's the great news about that is I heard there's people who are getting sober and clean and sober in the jail system, that blew my mind when I heard that. So then they come out. If you don't have that kind of recovery, then you're just going to continue doing, and then it's back in, and it's costing taxpayers because it's not a solution, right?
No.
So
I could talk for days on this subject.
I know. So I'm going to do this. I want to give you Dr. Marissa's Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award because...
Thank you.
And there's a lot of big people who've gotten this award, right, Jarvis? So, and I haven't given one away lately, right? Because of the program in San Diego. Because I think that's where the rubber meets the road. If we can address, coming out of prison, the damage that is way down deep inside that is leading to that compulsion, which leads to the crime, then we are going to really have an impact. And I want to say this for two reasons. That one. And the second reason is as good as the intentions are on the war on drugs or the war on obesity or the war on anything, the law of attraction says that the more we negatively attend to the problem will get bigger. If we turn our attention to the solution and focus on the solution, then the solution gets bigger. So programs like yours in San Diego are what I call the focus on the solution. And that's what's going to make a difference. So,
the one in,
that was a compliment. You're
thank
supposed
you.
to go.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
That feels so much better.
Good.
I just want to say quickly on San Diego, every county, when they did the realignment in 2011, every county was free to develop their own system of reentry.
Yeah.
And because of Mac Jenkins, who's the head of probation in San Diego, and how forward-thinking he is, the system we set up in San Diego got the award for the best reentry program in the nation by the National Association of Counties. And it is a great model. And if every...
LA County, are you listening?
That's another story.
Yes, yeah, we're staying in the solution.
Yeah.
We're staying in the positive. I would like an applause for San Diego County, Forward Thinkers Reentry Program in the Anaheim Lighthouse. So how do we get in touch with you? And if you're a loved one and you want to talk to Anaheim Lighthouse, how do we find you, get in touch with you? Dina, your cell number? No, I'm kidding.
Right.
Our home
She's
number
gonna
is...
kill me. Yeah.
Number.
We have the... well, first of all, we have a website.
Yeah.
It's www.anaheimlighthouse.com.
Very easy.
And on there, they have a toll-free number, which you've been playing
Yes.
through the thing. And that's really the
which
best
is
number.
877.
Yeah, you got me there.
Uh-oh. Do you have it on there? Oh, we'll pull the promo and do that again. But AnaheimLighthouse.com. If you don't have a computer, find someone who does. Sonny's going to kill us for not having the number handy. So yes. So Anaheim Lighthouse, you have facilities. There's plenty of information. If you are not Disneyland local, because you're like, what, less than 2 miles from Disney?
We're a mile from Disneyland.
A mile from Disney. Do you have out of state? Do you have other states right now?
Oh,
Not yet.
we have.
Oh, you do?
Well,
Okay.
no, we don't have facilities.
Okay.
We got a lot of people.
From out of state.
Oh,
like
okay.
half of them.
There we go. 1-800. See?
There it is.
Just ask for it.
Like
1-800-736-9295. That's 1-800-736-9295. AnaheimLighthouse.com. Thank you, Jarvis. So what were you saying? Out of state. Oh, you have people that come from out of state.
We have people that come from every state in the nation, and which is very good. A lot of them sometimes want to relocate out to California and continue their treatment, even after residential treatment, just to strengthen, and then they either return home or they remain out here in California. Some of them are moving their families out here, making a whole different location, because where they're at home, it's returning to their same playmates and their same places of hanging out, and it just hasn't been working for them. So there's opportunities out here, but we set them up after residential treatment with all the resources they need, some outpatient treatment to continue on in their treatment, the 12-step meetings, we make sure they have a list of those. We even contact some people that they can get in contact, especially if they're going to another state, back to another state, so they'll have somebody of the 12-step program that they can contact as soon as they get off the airplane and get in touch with them and keep them hooked in. Yes.
Well,
What would you...
sorry. I wanted to give a little shout out to our alumni association. Okay. We have an alumni association that meets every week at 6 o'clock at our facility. And we're in the process of doing planning other events like barbecues. We've already had 2 barbecues right at the site. Okay. And we're participating in like the AA had a big chili cook-off last week in Irvine. We participated in that, and we got our alumni to participate. So we offer aftercare resources for our graduates, people who graduate from the program, and allows them to stay in contact with us. And we do follow-up phone calls after the 30, 60, 90, 6 months a year to see how they're doing, if they need any help.
That's great. That's great. Is there an average, or it really depends on the person who comes through? Is there an average kind of span for treatment for people?
Yeah, the average length of treatment is about 25, 26 days. Now that's an average. We have people that, after 4 days they decide, treatment's not for them, and they'll leave against clinical advice.
Okay.
But we have others that stay 90 days. So it all depends. We will develop a program around your needs depending on what you need.
Great. Last thing, who would you like to give a peace shout out for appreciation and gratitude? Who helps you do the great things that you do?
All the staff at Anaheim Lighthouse. I couldn't do my job without them. And for all the people that we help, it's just an amazing collaboration and teamwork that they say it takes a village, and we all work in different levels to ensure that this person gets the very best care and learns the tools of recovery that they'll need to be successful in their recovery, and that we're all there if they want to call us, and if they're out there and they're struggling with something, we can direct them in the right path.
That's great. Yeah. There is hope. There is recovery from addiction.
For me, it's the people that I've seen grow and go through recovery in the criminal justice population. Seeing, I can remember being at a Walden House graduation in 1998. It was 1,500 people there, and there were women up there who had been in prison and been addicted, and they're sober. They got their little kids. Their eyes are clear. They have joy on their face, and it's just seeing that actually got me into this business.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So your piece shout out is to all those who have the courage and do the deal to recover, and that's what this show is dedicated to. Thank you so much, Dina and Tim, for coming on the air and helping me get illuminated around addiction, and that there is hope, and there is recovery, and there is a solution. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have a minute left just to close out this fabulous episode with my balance bar announcements. Asking you to step up to my balance bar. Let's see, my Asian Oprah giveaway today is, actually, I'm not giving it away. I'm inviting you for 2 more days. Tomorrow at 10 p.m. ends the raffle for a free set of tickets to the Chinese Spotlight film Don't Go Breaking My Heart 2 at the Newport Beach Film Festival. That's $80 worth package of tickets, and it includes the film and food and entertainment, all in Newport Beach for the festival. I'm one of the proud sponsors for the 3rd year in a row. So I am raffling off tickets, and all you need to do is go give me the finger. Just kidding. Give me a thumbs up at my Dr. Marissa Facebook page. Also, if you would like to join me in Sedona, Arizona, my 5th annual retreat to renew and balance and learn some tools to stop being tired of being tired. And that is May 16th and 17th. Please go to forbalance.org to register there. And if you do it by May 1st, you save $120. And next week, it is the much awaited, for last week of the month, Marvin Gaye, Sexual Healing with Dr. Marissa. And my delightful co-host is the ET mom, Dee Wallace. And it is going to be a hoot. We pre-recorded because I'm going to be listening in from the Bahamas. I'll miss you very much. But it's a fabulous show. So tune in next Tuesday for Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa Pay. That's P for positive, E-I. And remember, it's all about balance. Peace in and peace out.